Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of On Go Custom Figures YouTube channel. One of my last videos was a review of my carded figures. My wife thought it was kind of egotistical of me to review my carded figures. It's like you're reviewing your own product. That's kind of a dick move, but I'm not reviewing. I just don't have another word for that. I'm not really reviewing my figures so much as I'm showing them to you and telling you how I made them and how you can make them too, as well as the custom cards, some of the processes that went into making not only the figures but the cards as well. So it's going to be kind of interesting because I got ahead of myself on doing this because I knew I was going to do another video because the last one was fairly well received. I got a lot of, well, not a lot of comments, but I figure anything more than one is a lot of comments to me, and I do appreciate those, and I really do try to answer those. Just one thing, I've had some problems with my comments not showing up. I can see them in the little new comment section, but when I go to the video, they're not there. I really do try and answer any questions and respond to any comments that I can. I think that's only fair. This isn't a big channel. Not a lot of people are watching this. I have the time. There's no reason that I can't interact with people. That's the whole point of this channel, is for me to not only showcase my work, but to help you make your own stuff. But like I said, I got ahead of myself on this, so some of my customs are already up on the wall behind me and on the wall to my right. So you're going to get kind of a sneak peek today of the tour of the, I really don't like the cliche term man cave, but I don't have anything else better. I need another catchy term like Superman's Fortress of Solitude or the Bat Cave, or I need something unique instead of man cave. The toy store or something like that. The toy store might work. So I'm going to shoot pictures of some of the figures while they're up on the wall, which I haven't had a lot of luck shooting other stuff with because I've been using my iPad and I get a lot of pickup from the microphone on the iPad, and it's really staticky. So I'm going to try it with my iPhone and see if we can't eliminate some of that. So real quick, I'm going to grab some of the figures that I'm going to review today. Coming to you from the deck of the flag. I should have set up before I started shooting, but I didn't because I'm that kind of guy. So let me grab some of the stuff we're going to look at today. Ooh, big old stack here. Shit. Oh, ah. Well, we're going to find out how durable those cards, how well those guys are glued on there. All right, so for one of my first cards here is my Shadow Scout Sniper. So I was a really big fan of the Shadow Scout Troopers. It was originally a San Diego Comic-Con set that came out. I do have a couple of those sitting around out in the other room. But they're just basically the black Scout Troopers. So I made a couple of my own, and this is one of them. I used a BBI Barrett sniper rifle. So it doesn't really have the sci-fi feel to it, but at the time that I was making these, which is probably almost 15 years ago, there wasn't a lot of really nicely sculpted sci-fi weapons like there are now. So I had to use some of the realistic military weapons because there just wasn't anything else. But there you go. That's the Shadow Scout Sniper. The card art is just some random Star Wars wallpapers that I found on Google Image with a picture of the figure overlaid. And that's one of the things that's really hard to do about when you're trying to make cards for pre-existing characters. is because you've got to get enough room, enough dead space above the figure, the character's head, because there is a lot of dead space in this section of the card. And when you start looking for pictures for your cards, for Star Wars cards, you're gonna find that a lot of the pictures that you want to use do not have that extra dead space. So that's something to keep in mind, that you may want to do this. You may want to use a picture of your custom for the character, because you're not going to find pre-existing pictures with that much dead space above it. This is another custom that is very, very old. I called this the Scorpion Sand Trooper. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Patrick Stewart, and Julia Roberts, I believe, was in that too. Anyway, the main character in that had a like almost fetish for buying a copy of Catcher in the Rye anytime he saw one. Back when the 30th anniversary Star Wars figures were coming out, I kind of had the same problem with Sand Troopers. Anytime I saw a Sand Trooper, I had to get it. So I had a shitload of these guys laying around, and I needed to customize them. And every once in a while, I would get a unique paint. I would find a unique paint, and I actually need those. A unique paint, so I would just repaint the figure using whatever unique paint that I had recently found. This is a pretty good example of that. There's nothing really to this. It's all 30th anniversary Sand Trooper, but with a unique paint that I had found at the time. I think this is Reaper paint. I know there's still a Reaper paint being made, but it's not the same kind of stuff. They had some really unique metallic colors that I have not found again, unfortunately. So that's the... This is a particular favorite custom of mine. I'm a huge fan of the Republic Commandos. I'm trying not to get the glare on there, but still show the figure. A huge fan of the Republic Commandos, especially this series of books by Karen Traviss. Well worth the read. But the figures are poorly articulated. 5 points of articulation. So what I did is I bought a bunch of them, and then I cut them up and then dremeled out arms and legs and added articulation. So all of my guys have super articulation. All my Clone Trooper custom Republic Commandos have super articulation, and this is no different. I did use the Galactic Marine legs for the legs on my custom Republic Commandos, and I think I've used that particular piece on all of my Republic Commandos, because I really like how those look. And those used to be a dime a dozen. You used to not be able to swing a dead cat and not hit a Galactic Marine on a peg, and they were $2 on eBay. So I bought a shitload of those guys. I must have had 30 of those guys, and I used all those legs on customs. And now when I want to make a custom like this, now those figures are like $30 loose. It's just insane what the secondary market does. So he's super articulated, and this as the Scuba Commandos, Scuba clones. There's kind of an inside joke between a bunch of friends of mine. I don't know how it got started, but the gag is to just say Scuba clones. So hopefully some of my friends that remember that will watch that. I'm a big Van Halen fan, so I made my own Van Halen Clone Trooper. And the guitar is made by a buddy of mine, Marcus Aiken, also known as the Irrepressible Dark Horse. You've probably seen his customs and just not realized it, because he's been around forever and is a prolific customizer and is a good friend of mine. He made the guitar for me, and what's really cool is the guitar has blades that are on screws and will pop out. I've thought about making the other three members of the original lineup of Van Halen for the Clone Troopers. I've just never really gotten around to doing it. I have ideas for all the other three. I just haven't sat down to do it. I'm hoping to do that at some point in time. But that's my Van Halen Clone Trooper. Another Sand Trooper custom that I just repainted. Again, this is that mix of Sand Trooper and cool paint. Here, it's a metallic red that I found that was made by Reaper Paints that I can't get anymore. I just painted it black and used that metallic red that I had that I found was really cool. And they're just called a Nightfire Trooper. And I'm using art from the Clone Wars. I don't remember what planet they were on. They were on that planet that was in perpetual night with General Krell. Odoron, maybe? I don't remember. But I used that. I used a wallpaper shot from that for the background for that. I thought it was kind of appropriate. I was a big fan of the Navy SEALs. I tried to make a couple like customs based off of Navy SEALs. So I called this the Hydro Shock Trooper. And I used one of the BBI Draeger rebreathers for his gear. And then just gave him some weapons that I had laying around. Just tried to make him look kind of like what a clone trooper would look like if he was a Navy SEAL. And then I used a shot of Camino in the background for the art. And again, this is a really old custom. But I like how it looks on the card. And that's one of the things that I really highly suggest learning how to do this. Learning how to make your own cards, because even your old customs that didn't turn out so well do really look nice on a nice card back. One of the things that I was doing for a while was just painting customs black and then adding clones black and then adding the primary color back into it with like the clone commanders. So I did that with an ARC Trooper, and I've recently been watching the Clone Wars TV series. So I named this CT5555. So this is 5s. So this is Night Ops 5s. I really liked 5s in the Clone Wars series, right up until the point that they killed him. Broke my heart. So this is more of a tribute figure to 5s, Black Ops 5s. And again, really old custom, just a technique that I was using at the time to paint stuff black and then add the primary color back into it. I did my own super articulated First Order Stormtrooper. So it has all the articulation of like a G.I. Joe figure in the arm, up in the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and the torso, as well as the head. And then I obviously painted it. This is one of the reasons that I hate painting white, because the paint looks caked on. It's not smooth. I really hate painting white, and airbrushing really does make that easier, because it puts paints specifically white, yellow, and orange are really hard to paint without them caking up. So an airbrush can put on a nice thin coat and make it look smooth. So that's one of the reasons I want to go with an airbrush. Another one of the figures that I was from that set that I bought to repaint over the long weekend for the Bounty Hunters is Dengar. This is the fourth one of the Bounty Hunters, so there's one more. Unfortunately, the card didn't get printed because, as I mentioned in my last video, I had the file sizes wrong, so all my cards came out too big. And then when I resized all the files, I had like 70 cards that I printed. Unfortunately, they didn't all get moved over to the thumb drive to go to the printer, so the Zuckuss, Zuckuss. The Zuckuss card didn't get printed, so that's in the next batch of figures to come out. The next batch of cards to come out. Nothing spectacular about this. It's just a repaint. Actually, I think I glued some pouches to his hip just to make it different. It was just a weekend project or something to do, but I like how it looks on the card. All right, a Gand Mandalorian. Okay, my buddy Straxus, who I mentioned, sculpted most of the heads for any of my custom sculpted Star Wars heads were done by my buddy Dion, also known as Straxus. This was a particular one that he did for one of his customs, and he kept that one to himself for a long time because it was a very unique, very cool figure. I eventually talked him into giving me a cast of that head, and this is what I did with it. I really like how this one turned out. I did this one years and years ago, but I still love this figure. So thanks to my buddy for breaking down and making a cast of that head for me. I actually have that figure. I bought the custom, one of the few times I bought a custom from somebody, I actually have his figure. I'll have to see if I can dig that out. And then as I mentioned before, Black Ops guys. Here's my Black Ops Bly. And again, it's instead of doing the original colors like yellow, which is what I should have done, I went with metallic colors. So I did that on some of my other Black Ops guys, was use metallic colors instead of just the plain color. Like Fives, that blue is a metallic blue. So I used gold instead of yellow. And it's just a repaint. So that's the huge stack that I had there. So there's a couple more here that aren't up on the wall, and then we'll go look at the stuff that's up on the wall. And we'll shoot that with the iPhone, see if that works a little better. So in 2009, I went to, my best friend lives in New York, in Niagara Falls. So a bunch of us all went to his house, because I used to run my own customizing board, a forum. So a bunch of us from the forum all met up at his house for a weekend. I was home from Afghanistan on leave. And I made this figure while we were all sitting around, drinking, of course. And I was like, this custom looks like Freddie Mercury. And one of my buddies that was there was like, it does, go with it. So I did. So this was my Freddie Mercury custom. And again, this is, like I said, I did this in 2009, so it is old. But I kind of like how it turned out. So I'm going to put it right next to my Alice Cooper custom action figure that I made. Years and years and years and years ago, I had this idea to make to redo Batman villains in kind of my own style. My first one that I was going to do was Deadshot, kind of realistic military, but still reminiscent of the original figure. I used War Machine parts for the arms, and then G.I. Joe parts for the rest of it. And so like super articulated Batman villain. And then I never went anywhere with the project, so this was the only figure that I made for it. I had plans to do like all of them. I had ideas for a lot of the other Batman villains, and I just never got around to doing it. In the last one that I have down off the wall right now, I based off of some fan art that I found, and I'm going to stick a picture of it here, so we'll know that it's like we're looking at it right now. You can see this is some fan art I found on DeviantArt. It's realistic, kind of realistic military of Captain America, Logan, Deadpool, and Punisher, if they were like active military, like special forces, maybe private military contractors. And I did end up making figures of all these guys, and they all pretty much turned out except the Punisher figure, because I've never made a Punisher figure that I've been happy with. Never had a Punisher custom turn out, which is insane for me because it's like my second favorite comic book character ever. But I was really happy with the Captain America figure. I tried to use that art for the card, but it just didn't work. So I took a screenshot. Ooh, I've got clippings there on the card. There we go. So I used just the movie poster from Winter Soldier, and then added a Captain America logo that I found, and then just carded on it so you know who it is. All right. One of the tips and tricks for today is to make sure that you don't get ahead of yourself and start gluing figures down to the card. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again because I did it myself today. Is that you trim it that you trim your edges if you're doing it using a clippers rather than by hand. Is that you trim the corners before you glue the figure down. I didn't do that on like 2 or 3 of my carded figures today, and it kind of irritates me that I forgot to do that. Because once that bubble's on there, you can't get the clipper on there anymore. I could trim it by hand, but I probably won't. And then it's not going to bother me enough to reprint the card and recard it, just because the sheer number of carded figures that I have, I think there's probably maybe 4 or 5 that I didn't trim the corner on that one corner. So it's really going to be hard to notice. You know, when I only had like 10 figures up there, you know, that a couple of them that I forgot to trim, then it could kind of stood out. But now, not so much. All right, let's go look at the cards that are up on the wall real quick. All right, so we're going to try this on the iPhone and see if we can get better sound and not get that scratchy sound that I get when I try and shoot something like this with my iPad. So the first one here is Dark Empire Palpatine, based that off just the comic book series. The next one is my Elite Sand Trooper, yet another Sand Trooper custom. Actually, I think I used the Galactic Marine for that figure, for the base figure. And again, the head is sculpted by my buddy Dion. So that's a custom sculpted head. About 10 minutes after I glued this figure onto the card, I noticed that his weapon was sitting next to him on the countertop, so his weapon didn't get in the card with him. Damn it. Grand Moff Trichata, I think that's how you say his name. I got the figure because it looked like a cool figure. I didn't read any of the comic books that he was in because it's a Expanding Universe comic book figure. I just repainted him because I really liked the figure and just repainted him. So nothing too spectacular. I used the background that I showed you in the previous video to shoot him against to make him look like he's on the Death Star. All right, this is one of my favorite customs. Pimp Master Kenobi. So I did a Pimp Master Kenobi and a Pimp Daddy Darth Vader for a custom contest on Yak Face. They won that custom contest. I don't remember what I won for that. And then I got an offer to buy both of those customs, which I took up. So I think I got $50 for both of them. And then I really missed having those particular figures. So I redid the Pimp Master Kenobi, and he's got his swagger saber there with the Scuba Clone Commando head. So I redid the Pimp Master Kenobi figure. I've thought about doing the Pimp Daddy Darth Vader again, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And those are based off of the Pimp Daddy Destro figure. If you're not familiar with that, it's a figure that someone in Hasbro kind of slipped through the door before they caught on to it. So they are out there, and I have seen one in person, but they're very rare and very expensive, and it's kind of an inside joke. And then San Diego Comic-Con, they remade that figure in the like 2000, I don't remember what year that is, but they remade that figure. So that's what I based those off of. 41st Elite's Clone Trooper, so it's just a repainted Kashyyyk Clone Trooper. Just kind of washed out the camo a little bit. Nothing too fancy there. But I like the card. It looks nice on the card. My Imperial Naval Commando. So this is another one of my attempts at having like a SEAL team commando type figure. Unfortunately, his backpack is facing towards us down there at the bottom, so you're seeing the unpainted side. So, damn it. And there's my very first Star Wars custom. I repainted a Scout Trooper with a camouflage pattern. Never really understood why they didn't have camouflage pattern to begin with, why they were bright white in a forest. That just seems like a horrible tactical idea. So that was my very first Star Wars custom. There's the Boba Fett that I repainted, nothing fancy. Bossk that I repainted, again, nothing fancy. The hard part, again, like I said, is finding art that has the gap above the head so it doesn't interfere with the name bubble, and there's room so that there's room above it so you can see the whole character. I think I had to do a lot of photo manipulation with those two. Forlom, same thing, just a repaint. And then behind the mast of the flag here is IG-88. This one took me a while to get carded because I had to get the specific blister for him, which I got from Empire Blisters. That's where all of these blisters came from. So those are the Star Wars customs that I got up on the wall. Let's see, what else did I get up? Well, I got some G.I. Joe stuff up. Let's go take a look at that. Unfortunately, they're behind my Seeker customs, so I'm not sure I can get close enough. But there's the Outback, which I did in my last video. There's my Saw Viper. I'm kind of torn between using the digital explosion and using the original style explosion. I like the original style explosion better than the digital one for most of the stuff. So that's probably what I'm going to use on most of my cards. But some of them do look kind of cool with the original digital explosion too. There's one of my, boy, this was not a good idea. One of my Snow Serpents. Kind of made him a, here, let me see if I can move this out of the way. Snow Serpent, my Frag Viper. That's an old custom, but I really like how it turned out. With the digital explosion behind it there. All right, let's look at the ones that are down below. Female Cobra Eel, and that one won a custom contest somewhere. I don't remember where. And I used the art that I found. Uh-oh, hang on. Dogs are going crazy. And then I did a female Night Viper as well. Unfortunately, the reflection is kind of limiting what you can see. Yeah, so with the reflection, it's really kind of hard to see, unfortunately. But I really like how those came out on the original style cards. I did this Lady J a long time ago based off the art by an artist named Rai1. He's kind of fallen off the grid. I haven't heard from him in a long time, but I love that Lady J in Flint. So that's my Lady J. And then the Constructicon Bat. I think I reviewed him in my last video. But that's the template that I made myself in Photoshop. And I like how that turned out, actually. There's one more here that I don't have. Let me get that up on the wall and then I'll take a look at it. The last figure that I have that for you today is my old Snake custom. That was from the Transformers episode where Cobra Commander appeared. They never really called him Cobra Commander, but it was pretty clear that's who that was. Again, that's my own template with some art that I found. This was the first card that I made using the template that I made, and I was so excited in making the template and making this card that I didn't realize where I was putting the art of the character. So most of the art is actually behind the figure. I tried putting the figure kind of to the left above the name, but it didn't look right. So that's kind of the tip. The other tip and trick today is be careful where you put, how you lay your cards out. The other thing that I'm doing now, you can see where I punch holes for those cards. Where I didn't used to punch holes for those cards. So that was before I found my punch. So let me show you one thing real quick here as a kind of another tip and trick. So my template of the blank unpunched card is white. And then my hole punch is not the same shape or not the same size, unfortunately. So when I punch the card, I've got a little overlay there of the template. So what I'm doing now is, what I'd like to do now is to stop using the template. I know where I'm going to punch the hole. I just need to punch the hole and not put the template on there, because all of these cards now have that little white spots on them here and there. It's not noticeable until you point it out, and then you notice that all of them have it. It's not a big enough deal for me to go back and reprint these and recard these. So that's about all I've got for this particular episode. Just kind of a review of some of the review. I say review in the sense that we're just looking at old stuff, instead of the review in the sense that I'm telling you how good or bad something is, because some of these customs are really nice. Some of them are favorites of mine, and some of them are really just kind of really crappy customs because I did them so long ago. But the whole idea of this project is to get all of my customs on cards, and getting pretty close to having that being a realization. There's a few customs that I'm having trouble finding big enough blisters for. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. I've just been kind of avoiding that whole process, that whole problem, hoping it will go away on its own, but of course it's not. And not just illustrating my stuff, but just showing you that your stuff can look like this too. Just watch those videos I've showed you on how to make your own cards. It's not that difficult. And again, I will share templates. The Star Wars template is just one template. All of those Star Wars cards came off of one template. I just changed a couple of things here in Photoshop and added pictures. It's really not that difficult. And then the G.I. Joe stuff are templates that are available on joecustoms.com. And again, in their wiki section, again, I will remind you that their wiki section seems to have been hacked and there is malware in there. So be careful when you get in there. But I will share those templates with you if you don't want to risk getting your computer infected with malware like I did the first time. Luckily, it didn't do anything that I couldn't fix myself, but it was irritating. Let's see, what else do I got coming up for you? I'm almost done with my Mutt custom, so I'm gonna do a review of that here pretty soon. And then we're still looking at hosting a General Geekery podcast as a video podcast, and we'll be doing that hopefully here on this YouTube channel, because it's just like the perfect platform for that. And then since everybody's stuck here at home with the COVID-19 stuff, I'm just gonna see what other stuff, what I've got laying around that I can review, or unique, stuff that you might not see very often or know about, and just to keep everybody entertained and keep everybody's spirits up. And then hopefully I'll be doing, I don't know if I'll be doing it this time home, but a walkthrough of the toy store, my downstairs man cave with everything set up, because it's coming along. It's coming along nicely. So thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment, questions, and stay tuned for another episode here in the near future. Thank you for watching.